Blanco's Turf Unplugged. I think I'm still working on that title. Episode 3, I think.
Yes.
Okay. Episode 3. I guess today the title is kind of on, why does turf cost that much? This is, again, with the this is something that we get asked a lot, and we're not necessarily going to dive into the exact cost of everything, just because every single person that we encounter, every client, every job has a different need. So each quote is very much individualized to the actual project that is on hand. However, we can dive into what goes into the cost and why sometimes it can be a little bit more than others, or the day, or whatnot. Okay.
Ready.
So
start.
Okay, so what actually goes into turf pricing? I don't know if you want to start or if I should.
You had a lot of questions, right? Or you want to break them down? Or
I kind of want to break it down to what exactly, I guess, step by step, what goes into the pricing, why,
Okay, so I used to be a salesperson, obviously, for the business when we started. I used to do everything pretty much. But I still do some sales up until now. And the first thing that we look at when we go to a project will be how complicated it is for us to get to the actual area that we're going to be doing turf at. If it's like a front yard, if it's a backyard, how wide is the access, if we got to go over pavers or over nice grass, or if it's like really bad grass or whatever. We do put like a bunch of plywoods and stuff to go over with the bobcats. We use like really small machines anyway. It's not like this super heavy bobcats. But definitely the first thing that I look at when I walk into the job is how easy the access is. If it's going to be an easier one or not, that would definitely be adjusted on the price. And then from there, we also look into what is it that we're removing, how deep we got to clean, how not. And a lot of times we gotta either bring the levels up really high to get to a certain level so that the turf looks nicer, or that the client wants it like that. And sometimes we gotta dig and go really deep down and get 2, 3, 4 trailers of dirt, mulch, grass, rocks. So that's also the second thing that I look into when we're doing a quote. Do you want to ask anything?
I mean, I guess just to kind of go even further and just really break it down. So basically, the access is definitely one of the biggest, price indicators, because if we have minimal access, we cannot take in the heavier equipment. So we can't take in the bobcat. We can't, certain things. Sometimes we
Or how far it is. Some houses, the backyard will be right there, but some houses the backyard will be from the street to the back of the house. It's actually like a block.
Yeah, and we talked last week how our minimum access sometimes is at least a wheelbarrow, but depending on the type of access, if we can only get inside with a wheelbarrow, and we have to walk a large distance because we can't go over the pavers or the driveway or whatnot, that is just more labor intensive, so that's going to bump up the cost a little bit. Now, if we are able to bring in a little bit more of our equipment, then yes, at that point the job becomes a little bit easier in terms of bringing in the base, the concrete, even the turf itself. Sometimes we're able to help bring in with some of the machinery. So that's kind of one of the biggest points. That's something that I do take quotes online, and I do sometimes let people know online, hey, this is what goes into the price when somebody asks questions about it. But I always tell them, we can come out, we can definitely do a complimentary quote, but we need to actually visualize what the area looks like in order to give you an accurate price. It's not always just about, I have a rectangle in this by this, and I'm well, I can give you a very rough price, but there's a lot more that actually goes into it. Now, the other part of this is that we do have a lot of turf options. We have different samples of turf. So if you want a putting green, or if you want a thicker turf, longer turf, that's going to probably have a little bit more in a price point. if you do a smaller, less thick turf, it's also a cheaper option, more cost effective. So that's also going to kind of, change the price. It's not like this extreme amount, but it does change the price a little bit up or down. Again, you're talking about base prep and excavation, right? So if we have to, you were talking about how if you have to put in a lot more base, it's a lot more material that usually we include in that base price of the installation as well. That's something that we're not like, we don't technically itemize things. We kind of include everything into a one kind of category.
It's easy to calculate how much base we're gonna use or not. So that's already gonna be on the quote. But when we're doing a potting green, that's definitely gonna affect the cost of the project for sure. Because potting greens definitely take a lot more time and details. So that's definitely going to be another thing when we work with tiles, like a tile work that we do a lot of those with turf included inside. That's also going to be more expensive because we explain a lot of clients because let's say that we do a 15 by 30 and they wanted all tiles inside. There is two ways of doing it. Either we do strips of turf, which I personally don't like it because it's a lot of strips, and most clients we will explain to them and they would say, hey, let's go with a whole, like one piece of turf, like we don't want to do these little strips, whatever. In that case, beautiful. But if they want to do the strips, they think they're going to be saving money because they're using less turf, but we're going to have to charge more labor because it's going to be more time consuming for us to install it.
It might take a little bit longer.
It will take longer for sure. So either way, it's like, well, if you do a whole piece, it's going to look a lot cleaner and like way nicer. If you're not, you might be saving still a little bit, but it's not worth it. It's definitely not worth it. And a lot of these little pieces, I actually like keeping them because we use them for samples later on. Like they don't, people that think that they go to waste, well, they do. The client pays for it and stuff, and they can keep them, but sometimes, most of the time, they don't keep them. But we don't throw them away. We actually keep them for samples for all the clients. So it's not like, oh, it's a waste. We use them,
Yeah. So. Trying to think of something else that kind of goes, also delivery too of materials, depending on what type of materials it is. Like if we have very specific types of pavers that need to come in, they have to be delivered. That also can kind of bump up the price a little bit. There's just so many different factors as to. Another one that I know that I usually always tell when I'm, just talking to people online is, hey, generally just the overall project that you want to do, because if you want to add landscaping to your project, depending on whether there's little small plants, those are easy, but if you've got like bigger palms, bigger trees, the labor again on that and just the length of time is going to be a lot more, so that's also going to bump up the price.
If they also have irrigation, that's also going to make a difference no matter what, because if they have irrigation, if we're going to keep the irrigation, we got to run it to different areas, or like we got to adjust the system to make sure it's like, let's say the client has irrigation and wants to keep the irrigation inside the artificial turf. We got to raise all the heads to make sure they're flat with the turf. Sometimes we have to move some, like the ones that are closer to the edge of the turf, we'd rather put them outside the turf so that they're not literally like a foot inside the turf. That doesn't make any sense. So why not move them? So that's a lot more labor. If they don't want to keep the irrigation, then we got to cap everything around. Sometimes there is, because it's an old system, whatever, we turn them on and there is like broken pipes everywhere for years. So we got to cap everything and leave everything set and then start the installation.
So what do you think actually surprises our clients more when, I could probably say this even before I got into the turf world. Like if you would have come to me and be like, oh, it's this price, I'm like, wow, that's, might be a little much for what I'm thinking, because I might not be aware of what actually goes into doing turf. And sometimes we've had that reaction where it's like, oh, this is much, but sometimes we're able to explain to our clients like this is what goes into it. So what do you think is something that surprises them the most about the price that they're not aware of?
First of all, the price of the turf itself is expensive. The turf is not a cheap product. Like it can go from like 150 per square feet to like $4 per square feet just for the turf itself. And then the materials that go after that, the infill that you use, the borders around the perimeter. Some companies don't use it, but we do. Like the glue, everything that you use, it's a lot of money. The tools that you use, like the brush, the blowers, everything else, that also comes into the price. Like if you want somebody to come here with some shovels and do the job for you, or you want somebody with more tools that the job is going to end up looking a lot better. All these tools they got to pay for, we got to pay a lot of money on everything, taxes, insurance, everything, so all of these prices, yes, it's going to go on your price at the end of the day, because we got to pay for all of this. So I would say what hits them the most is the price of turf itself. They sometimes they would think like, oh, we put in turf, like they compare it to sod. I'm like, yeah, a lot of these clients that are putting turf, Karel was saying that on the last episode, the biggest thing they said all the time is like, we wish we would have done this 5 years ago. But then again, like you pay for sod 3 times, it didn't work out. Now we're like, okay, well, here's the turf. It's 3 times the cost, but they still make the comment like, oh, why it's so expensive? Because it's gonna last you 15, 20 years and you don't have to worry about it, and it's a lot more labor than putting sod down.
Yeah.
Putting sod down, anybody can put sod down. Artificial turf takes a lot of labor and a lot of time to get it prepped the correct way, make sure the seams are done correctly, everything is stable, especially if you have a potting green or tile work, like diamond designs, it takes a lot of work.
So I guess kind of just piggybacking off what we were saying, where we talk about not all quotes are equal, and we kind of like touched on that. Like each project is very much dependent on what the client's needs are, and then going back to just us across other companies, where you're going to find companies all across the board that have a lot lower price than we do or a lot higher price than we do. I think we're fairly competitive. I think that we lie somewhere in the middle. We try to be as cost effective with our clients and as honest upfront with our clients as we possibly can, and still maintain good quality in the work that we do, and maintain good quality products that we use, because we want to make sure that job's going to last and it's going to look beautiful. And so we can kind of touch base on the turf. Like there's cheaper options for turf, and there's also some other options that are more quality turf. And that's really going to be your range. If you get somebody that's giving you a really low price, they're probably not using the best quality in the turf, which probably will look worn out a little bit faster, will look, it'll age
way faster.
Like it won't last those 15, 20 years or even longer if you take good care of it, because turf isn't necessarily no maintenance at all either. You do have to, it does require a little bit of maintenance, a little low maintenance, maybe every couple of months, quarterly,
brush it, add more infill, yes,
and then brush it out, just even once a year, just kind of like just to keep it maintained, especially if you've got pets or like kids, because if the kids are constantly running around playing outside, they're enjoying it, that's great. But they've got ice cream, they got their candies, they got like all their stuff, and they're just constantly spilling it on the turf. We can speak to that ourselves because we have birthday parties and we get lots of candy thrown out on the turf, and so occasionally we do need to have it cleaned up, brushed out, so it just lasts a little bit longer in the long run. The other part is that, we also make sure that we have enough base prep, and we try not to cut corners to make it even lower. I mean, you need at least, 3 inches of base. There's a lot of, we're not going to say that there is a lot because we're not entirely sure, but we have encountered projects that we've had to come back and fix that weren't something that we've done ourselves, and we've noticed that the project, maybe had an inch of base.
Or no base.
Or not much at all. And then that's going to cause, bumps probably in the turf. It might cause a lot more weed problems. Just things that we're going to have to come back and we have to excavate a little bit more, put some more base prep, compact that down a little bit more, level everything out, and then put the turf back out so it actually looks, nice and clean. You got clean edges, clean lines.
We also get a lot of clients that we have from people that went and did the job, and then they call us because they didn't put any borders around the perimeter, and then the base starts going into the neighbor's yard, and it creates a big mess. Like, the borders are really important to keep everything tight and secure. And a lot of companies, they don't use the borders, and that's a big mistake. That is a big mistake.
That was kind of one of the points that I wanted to touch. I mean, you were just talking about like stories where somebody has unfortunately used somebody that came in a little bit lower on pricing than us. And then we've had people that we have quoted, and I know this, that we have quoted, and they're like, hey, you know what, you were just a little bit higher than I anticipated. I have a few quotes coming in. I think I'm going to go in another direction and whatnot. And then a few months later, they're like, hey, can you actually come and help us because this didn't turn out the way that we wanted it to? And I mean, this is a true story. Like, we've had this happened. And, you know, and we try to work with them on price because at this point it's not a whole new project. We're trying to just fix whatever it is that it wasn't done correctly. So this has happened to us a few times.
People that also, so the last almost 3 years, we have been dealing with the city of Tampa and stuff for like permits and all of that, and we have had to pick a few clients that got caught in the middle of the job, and the company was like, well, I don't know what to do now, you figure it out, good luck. Like, they left the job halfway done, and then we had to go back, start pulling the permits for them, fix whatever the city told us to fix, and get everything fixed, and then close the permit on them. And that's like a whole nother thing. Like, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, because then now we're taking on responsibility that wasn't necessarily ours to begin with. But we want to help the customer out because we don't want to just leave their job, you know, unfinished.
We recently just did one.
And so, you know, there is a little bit more of a burden on that aspect because if something doesn't go right, then we have to take on that, okay, how do we fix this? How do we, you know, and we don't know if that's going to add cost or not, you know.
This one specific client that I remember, she had her job literally wide open for over a year before she found us, and we went and she actually pulled the permit herself, but we went, saw the permit that she made, like what were the numbers. We did it up to the standards of the permit, and then she finally was able to close it. But she had the job open for over a year. I'm like, you know, so that's another thing. If the company that you're hiring, they don't know anything about how the city works and stuff like that, not only Tampa, anywhere, San Pete, Clearwater, whatever you are in Florida, you need to know the standards of these cities, like what base do they allow, what type of turf do they allow. Like, that's a major thing right now for everybody around.
The biggest
Florida.
concern with a lot of the cities is that, you know,
drainage.
they want proper drainage.
Yes.
Like, we are below sea level, we're in Florida, we're surrounded by water, so we can flood very easily and it can affect your neighbor's yard. So the city is very much wants to be on top of proper drainage. Is your turf, you know, properly drained? Does the base material properly drain? Everything that you're using, does it have drainage? And that's we've had to learn through the process too, because turf years before was not something that was permitted, and then it became permitted like a couple of years back, and we've had to, like, you know, learn the rules along the way, but we've done plenty of permits since we've started, so a little bit more knowledgeable on
they also want to make sure there is no spills from our client's house to the neighbors. Like, whatever material we're using, they don't want it to affect the houses around, so that's a major thing.
The other thing that also tends to affect that range in price from company to company is that, like, you know, aside from the base prep and the base material, is that, you know, it's kind of like even when we started. Like, when we started, we just had, you know, a couple of crews, a truck, a trailer that wasn't a dump trailer at the time, you know, and just some very basic installation materials. And that was great, you know, at the time. It got you started. It allowed you to kind of have a lower price point when you first started, but it was also more kind of like labor intensive. It would take longer to finish the projects than it does for us now. So we've, you know, throughout the years we've grown, and so we have now more tools, equipment, you know, proper vehicles that allow us to be able to do the job in a much more timely manner. We're able to, like, you know, it's easier, it's not so labor intensive for us anymore, and that's unfortunately, it has increased a little bit of our overhead, so we've had to raise our prices a little bit, adjusting to be able to have that. But again, we finish the jobs a lot quicker than what we did before when we were able to charge a lower price.
The one thing that I think helped us a lot is that we do have pretty much the same elite guys on the company. They're the same 7 years ago that are now. You know, we have the same guys. It's not like we're gonna get to a house today with a crew and then tomorrow there's gonna be a different crew and that knows nothing about turf. That's not the case with us. All the crews that we have is employees that are employed from us and have been working with us for like 7, 6, 8, 9,
our longest
10 years.
guys have been with us basically since the beginning.
10 years, yeah.
To that we also have a little bit of newer guys as well. But I mean, we have more crews installing too. So as time has passed, we've had to hire more people. But some of the ones that were with us from the beginning are still with us today, and they have a lot more knowledge too. And going into that, their pay from 7 years to now also goes up because inflation, unfortunately, and they deserve it. They're senior leaders, and their skill set, they absolutely deserve that higher pay. The other part that I think would kind of maybe increase price also depends on like the shape of your yard, because the shape of your yard, if you've got a rectangle, that's probably the easiest thing, and you just roll down the turf, no big deal. You don't have to do as many seams. There's less waste. But if you've got like an odd-shaped yard, or you want something in like an oval pattern or curves or something, we might have to end up using more turf to have less seams, but you'll end up with more waste. That also can kind of bring up a little bit on that price. Tree roots, I think, also is something that can maybe we have to either adjust, figure out how to go around the roots.
And there is a certain type of palms that also you got to be really careful when you remove them. This one specific one that I'm thinking of is called lady palms. Those lady palms, if you get to a job site where you have to remove a few of them, they're not even palms, to be honest. They call them lady palms, but they're like this thick, and they're like a bush. If you don't remove them,
are those the ones that have like the over the turf sometimes, like where they grow over the turf?
Yeah. Well, they don't. Yeah, they will grow over the turf and under the turf.
They're like hard.
And break the turf. Yeah, they're really hard. So those, whenever you guys encounter them, that's how you say it. Make sure that you clean like the last little piece of root, because anything that you leave under the ground is gonna find its way out. So that's the most annoying plant I would say to remove. Palms are usually, the rest of the palms are usually pretty easy. Like once you take the palm out, whatever roots are there, like leftover roots, it's not a big deal. But smaller trees with bunch of roots, you also got to be careful, because if you're doing around a big tree, you don't want to hurt the root system. So you got to be really careful, like what roots you can remove, what roots you cannot, from what tree, like what type of tree. Some trees, they don't have enough root system for you to come and cut 3 roots, because it might only have like 10 roots. If you cut 3 off, that's a big damage for the tree. So you want to take it easy cleaning around trees, leave space if you can, obviously. That would be great. So,
yeah. I think the other things that, I'm just trying to think of all the little points, just to touch. Cleanup fees. We have to take things to different sites to dispose of them. And sometimes that also, we don't necessarily add that all the time, but that sometimes is again embedded in that overall cost, because we do have to dispose of all of the materials and all the cleanup that we pull out from the turf, from the site before.
Yeah, sometimes the sales guy will go to a quote and it's it's just like a lot of mulch all around the property, and they're not gonna come here and dig everywhere with a shovel and see how deep it is. how deep the mulch is. So they're like quoting and they're like, okay, perfect. Then when we get to the job site, especially if it's mulch, because if it's rock or dirt, whatever, the rock, if we don't need it, if we don't need to remove it, it can stay under. We put the base on top and we do the turf. But the mulch specifically is something that we have to remove all the mulch, because if not, the base is not gonna compact well. Sometimes and it has happened a lot of times where we think the sales guy thought that it was gonna be like, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 inches of mulch, and it ends up being like a foot of mulch from years. Like the client is dumping mulch every 6-9 months, just dumping mulch. So with that, we calculated maybe like 1 trailer full of mulch, and then it ends up being like 3 trailers full of mulch, and it's like, okay, now.
And something I think that people tend to overlook also is that we do offer complimentary quotes, but we do pay our sales guys to go out to these quotes. You know, they sometimes have to go out multiple times just to make sure that you know, hey, we got there before and they're building a house, and so now we got to go back and, like, you know, figure
4,
out
5, 6 times sometimes
what the area is exactly. You know, kind of go back and forth with the customer, seeing what they want, what they don't want, if there's landscaping options or not. That's also kind of like, hey, how about this? No, I don't really think about that one. Why don't we try something else? So that also kind of, like, you know, is again part of things that people don't understand because it's not directly labeled on our quote.
There is a lot of clients that contact us and we go to their house and they literally tell us, like, we're gonna be building a pool right here and we want to turf everything around it. Can you get us a quote? And we're like, sometimes they actually have a plan already, and that's amazing. But even with the plan,
things change.
Everything changed, because then they're like, oh, okay, you know, like, we don't want to do this much pavers. We want to do only this around, or just the foot around the pool, and then it's going to be a turf. So those clients, we definitely have to go to them at least 3-4 times.
Usually they want like that early quote is just to kind of have a rough estimate to what their budget's going to be like, right? But things are always changing, especially for remodels or new builds of anything in the backyard. So that's something that, again, it's not directly in there, but it is something to take into consideration, because that is also additional overhead that we have to take care of. You know, just the time it also takes them to, like, you know, depending on the complexity of the project, if they have to research very specific type of pavers, very specific type of rock, or whatever type of materials, plants,
tiles,
and whatnot. You know,
it's their
work, it's their time, and they're fine to do it. But again, just things that to take into consideration.
Yeah, yesterday I had one of my guys at 9 p.m. at Lowe's looking for a specific tile that this client wanted, and it's the one tile from Lowe's that it's easier to get our Lowe's, because they actually have the ceramic tile. It's actually a really nice tile, and they have like 4 or 5 different types, and we use them all the time. But that one in specific, they had to go to like 4 different Lowe's to find it. And at 9 p.m. he was still like going all around Tampa Bay looking for, because we needed a lot of them, like 70, 80 of them. And some Lowe's, they have like 30 of them, and when you get there, they're like, oh no, I'm kidding, I only have 10, or I don't have any. And so, you know, looking for the right material is definitely like a challenge. Sometimes like a specific type of rock, or sometimes we also do like some lighting or whatever. Like, we don't go cheap when it comes to that stuff. So yeah, it's a lot.
I mean, I think that covers a lot of stuff. We talked about, you know, how quotes are kind of created out in the field, how the sales guys go, you know, they talk to our customers, they take their measurements. Sometimes those measurements, you know, we've had customers where they're like, hey, you know, your measurements were off by somebody else that gave us a quote. And we try to be as thorough as possible with the measurements, so we can't always account for like why that difference is with somebody else. But you know, we try to include also a little bit of waste material in there as well, because more likely than not, there's always going to be a little waste material, so that we're able to ensure more clean lines in our projects. You know, and again, depending on your overall scope of the project, those measurements might be a little off from the last time you were quoted to now.
Our sales guys, they measure the yard as if they were the ones installing the turf, because they know how to install turf. They came to us for a while before becoming sales guy, and they know how to install it. So we have told them multiple times, like, every time you measure a yard, measure as if you were the one installing it right there on the moment, because that way you pretty much know exactly how many seams we're gonna have and everything. And then, but then that's when these clients call, like, hey, you were like 100 feet over. And a lot of times the sales guy goes back to the client and measures the turf with the client. Listen, this is the best way of installing this project for you. Let me show you how the pieces are going to go, so that you know exactly where is the 150 square feet that we added that this other company didn't add, but then they're going to have 10 more seams everywhere, and it's going to be a mess.
So let's see. Do you, I mean, kind of going off quotes and kind of like, you know, making it a little bit more light, because we talked a lot about what goes into the price and stuff. Is there anything particular that you remember from a customer being like, I don't know, like either a funny moment in quoting? I mean, you haven't done quotes recently, and I don't know if the guys have told you anything recently about any quotes that might have been.
No, yes. So one of our sales guy, he's really scared of frogs. And yeah, and he recently, so we were here at the office, like going over on Wednesdays for the projects for the next week, and we were looking at his video for the quote for the job that we were doing, and we were looking at the video to like put on the schedule, and he was like lifting up the turf. He's like over here. Oh, it was a repair for like one of these jobs that we had, like they had done like a new fence, and we had to go pull the turf back, and he was pulling the turf like so carefully. So Karel calls him and he's like, why are you scared of frogs or something? And he's like, man, yeah, no, I'm paranoid, like I don't like frogs. And then one of them jumped on me, and like he went to that house twice. So that house, and just so you know, after we fix it, no, the day that we went to fix it, the client actually told Cesar, hey, can you come here for a second? I was with Cesar on FaceTime to show him what needed to get done. And Cesar went, so I told Cesar, just come in when you finish with her, whatever. So he finished with her. I call him back. And I told him, like, what was it? Like, and he's like, no, she just wanted to see if I could find the frog. Era un sapo. How you say that in English?
So the big one, like a toad.
Yes, that's what it is. So that same one scared Leo twice. And it looks like it's been on that backyard for a long time. You know, like from everywhere, hiding on that backyard. It's a really tight backyard.
I could totally see him like screaming and running in the
Cesar, she told Cesar like, oh, I think like yesterday we saw it on this thing, whatever. And Cesar went and he's like, no, he's not here no more, whatever. So I told Cesar, like, go around the whole property and see if you find it, whatever. He doesn't care. He's not scared of them. But yeah, like,
it would have been nice to have one of them here to see if there's any more like funny stories that they could tell us when they're going out in quotes. I'm sure. I mean, we do so many quotes per week that I'm sure that there is some instances that have just caused them, like, I don't know, to run in the opposite direction.
Dogs definitely would be one of those to run in the opposite direction. A lot of times we tell the clients like, oh yeah, we'll meet you on the backyard, because we don't want to walk to the. At least I used to do. I never. If I walk inside a client's house 3 times my entire life doing turf, it's been too much. I always tell them, I'll meet you in the backyard. So they go through the front and I will go around the side. If I see a dog, I freak out automatically. I'm like, unless if I see that it's like a friendly dog, then I don't care. But if it's like doesn't look too friendly, I'll be like, I'll wait for them to get here, get the dog inside, and then I'll walk with them. But I'm sure they have some good experience with that. Yeah.
Okay, well, so you have another funny moment then?
Yes. So there was this, and the funny thing is that this actually happened to me with an ex-girlfriend. There was this one shirt that I really liked, that I saw at that was when I was like 19 years old. But the same thing happened to me with a client, and it was kind of funny. But the story with my girlfriend at that time, 20 years ago, I bought this shirt and I walked into her house so happy, and because I had finally got the shirt, and she had a dog, Rocky was the name of the dog, and as soon as the dog saw me, he was really excited to see me, and he jumped on me and went like this and scratched the shirt like completely. I think I told you this, right? Like I was like, okay, I'm going back home to change. I will be back in 20 minutes. I'm like, okay. And two of them. If I'm pretty sure it has happened more than one, but I remember one that literally scratched the shirt a few times, and I don't care because it was a work shirt. But then another one actually beat me one, like one of those little ones, like Sudie's dog, that they're never friendly, and like I remember like he came and beat me like a few times, and the client was like, "You okay?" Yeah, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." As soon as I got in the car, I was like, "Let me see what the dog did to me," and it was just like it wasn't anything, but it happens a lot, like it's not because they want to come to hurt you. It's because most of them, they're friendly, but they're really active, and they just want to play with you, and they get too excited, especially if they don't know you. They want to come and play with you. But some of them, they're little friendly dogs. Some of them are like 100-pound friendly dogs. They're like a person, So I think those are funny, but you got to be careful with those because it's like, oh my God, this is like a big animal. It's like a horse coming to you. I'm like, wait a second, I'm only 170 pounds. How high? Like, are you 120? It's a lot.
Ha ha ha.
Okay. I can take you to one and you will see. Especially you, when you see one of these big dogs running to you, you're like, are you being friendly or not? Like, you don't have much time to figure it out,
So even with all the stuff that, kind of goes into our pricing with the turf, and just kind of everything that we've touched base on, these are things that are usually explained to the customers even before we go out to do quotes. Like I said, sometimes I talk to people online and I tell them these things. But we still have customers who are like, hey, is there any way that we can get a better price than this, than what we're doing? Or even if they have other quotes, they kind of decide, hey, and sometimes we've literally politely told them, like, unfortunately we cannot go any lower than that. But there are lots of moments where we have attempted to work with the client and be like, you know what? Let me see if we can rework this a little bit. Let me see what we can modify, maybe take out, change, whatever, and see if we can lower it just a bit more to fit your budget. So we're always looking to try to, as much as within our means, to be able to help, stay within our customers' budget. So, for just any future clients or whatnot, if you guys see that there's a price that you're not liking, let us know. Really just let us know, because there might be a way that we could probably help a little bit with that price point. Another thing that we have is we do offer financing. So
I'm gonna have to tell you, you talk too much, and I have like an idea that I want to say, and you keep talking, and then it's like, sorry. I forgot. Okay. I'm like, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Did you forget already?
No, I still have it in mind. So just so they know, once we have like work out the price with you, and you still think that is still too high, we have there's two things. We have about 8-10 different types of turf that we use. One, check what turf you picked. Because if it was like a longer turf and thicker and whatever, or pad, whatever, and you really didn't need a pad, coming down to like a shorter turf or something like that will bring the price down for sure. Not much, like maybe like 40-50%, not percent, cents per square feet. And the other thing, and these are pretty much the only two things that we can work out after that, literally, is the type of infill that you use. Simple as that. If you want to do regular sign, or if you want to do Wonderfield, T-Cool.
Your biggest price reducers, but
that's the only thing we can really change.
But there are other stuff that I've seen, because I see the quotes every single day. I see the
you can bring square footage down, but like what I mean is like once the quote is set, like the way that we do the job is gonna be the same. When it's like, oh, let's not do the borders, we don't do that. We've been doing the borders for 15 years.
Like I said, we don't skip over quality. But what I was trying to say was, there are ways that we can adjust what the project has, so that if it's too much in a specific I don't know, let's say, for example, your square footage was big and you're like, hey, I can't, that's too much. Well, then maybe we could be like, you know what, if we reduce the square footage and maybe add some beds that have like some mulch or whatever, that might be able to reduce a little bit on the price. It'll still look big, it'll still look open, but it doesn't have to be as big in turf, which would bump up the price. So it's not always just the turf or the infill. There are ways to like adjust the project, overall project scope to kind of like work better with the customer's budget, but still kind of keeping in mind what they would like and not ever going down on the quality of the work that we do. Yeah. So that's kind of what I meant. Now, back to what I was saying was that another option, that we do have is that we do offer financing. We do, that is an option. It's not always out there. We're not always promoting it. But, I'm sure that our sales guys do let people know this. So the point that I was making is that if that price, even though we try to work on the best price that we can give you that first time, if it seems a little bit much, don't be afraid to ask if there is any way that we can, help that price, because maybe we can come up with other options that could help reduce a little bit so that we can meet a little bit more your budget.
Yeah, and a lot of times, especially with the project that includes landscaping, but most of the time, these projects that include landscaping, their main goal is they want to do turf, but they also want to do landscaping. Sometimes they can do the turf, and we can do like mulch on the beds. And if it's too much at the moment, they can do the turf, do mulch on the beds, and later on, 6 months later, whatever, they can come and do the landscaping on the beds. Because a lot of times the beds are a lot of money, like depending what type of landscaping you use and stuff like that. But you can do and I'm telling you, 95% of the people that do both of these, they want to see the turf. That's what they're craving. That would be a good option. Let's do the turf, leave all the beds ready, and then we can come back 6 months whenever you're ready, and we can do the landscaping. That's another option,
So yeah, there's always a little bit of wiggle room there that we could probably try to help a little bit on that cost.
The other thing is the size of the plant. It's not the same thing getting a 3-gallon clusia than getting a 7-gallon clusia or a 15-gallon clusia. I tell the clients, if you're planning on staying at this house for a long time, I usually recommend don't go with
the big
plants too big, because you're just gonna see them go higher and bigger. Get smaller plants. You're gonna pay less, obviously, and you're gonna be able to enjoy the growth. But if you just get everything big, like I want a privacy fence, let's get big palms. Well, eventually, depending on the size of the palms, you're actually not gonna have any privacy, because they're just gonna be like little sticks all the way up 20 feet high, and you're not gonna have any privacy. So get smaller palms so you can have some privacy for a while.
Okay, so here's a little, I guess, true or false rapid fire kind of questions.
I never saw that. Where do you hide those?
These are just true or false. Like, I mean, and I can tell you the majority of the answers to these, but turf should cost the same no matter who installs it.
No.
That's false.
False.
Absolutely. You can skip money by skipping, you can save money by skipping base prep.
No.
No, that's false. We cannot. Base prep is very much necessary.
Yeah.
DIY turf installs are just as good. Do it yourself.
No. If you gotta be a really good handyman and detail guy.
I think for the most part, you're probably right in that being false. But there's probably some people that could manage.
No, there is a lot of people that could manage it, but two things. They might at some point use cheaper materials because they would not be able to find the right stuff at the right place, because they don't know how to look for these specific things.
Yeah, because it's not down their alley. It's something that they have to research for a while.
And they're not going to pay the labor because they're going to do it themselves, but they're not contractors. So anywhere they go, when they go to buy the turf, it's going to be more expensive, at least 30, 40 cents per square feet, $1 more expensive. Glue will be more expensive. The borders will be more expensive. The base, that's probably going to be more expensive too. Anywhere you go to buy base, it's a little bit more expensive for not contractors. So they're not going to pay the labor, but they're going to have to pay more for all of this. So
yeah, and again, time is money. So like usually DIY will take you a lot longer than if you hire a company that comes in and does it. Like if we were to come in and do it, it would take us maybe, depending on the size of your project, 2 or 3 days. But if you were to try to tackle that on yourself, it's going to take you probably a little bit longer to get it done. Again, it depends on the person. They may not have the right tools to like compact and level the ground appropriately. But I have met other people that are like, I'm very much willing to do this. This is we're like, great. Now there have been people that maybe start the process and then they've like basically asked us to come in and help them finish the process. So and that might be, that could help because
prep the ground.
Prepping the ground.
Okay, I just need help with the turf.
Yeah. So that's something that we have come in and stepped in, and it's definitely a little bit cheaper option on the price. Yeah. Turf is maintenance free forever.
No, false.
No, false. We do offer turf care services as well because we do realize that, again, depending on where your location is, like where your project area is, you may be one of the lucky ones that never gets a weed in your backyard, right? But turf doesn't always necessarily mean no weeds ever. Like there are very good possibilities that you might see a few weeds growing along the edges of the turf, along, like especially if you've got pavers or other stuff, they might grow along the edges of the pavers or the tiles or, certain areas. Again, maybe depending on the type of base that was used in that property.
Not only that, the turf care is necessary like for everything, like people that have pets.
That I was coming to that too. I was just talking about like that general, depending on the base that gets used. But yes, we also live in Florida, and it gets very hot, and we have pets, and so we have a disinfectant. That's what I was looking for. The disinfectant that we use to help clean out some of the backyards when there's a lot of pets moving around. We brush out the turf occasionally. And again, this is very much to the need of the customer. So it doesn't always have to be every month, every 2 months. Just, maybe like we were talking earlier, once a year or twice a year, depending on the movement, the traffic that you have in your backyard. If you've got lots of trees, you might need a little bit of a blow and stuff going on because you're going to get lots of leaves on the turf.
And seeds.
But it is not a maintenance-free option forever. No. Like there is a little bit of maintenance required.
And there is a lot of companies that promote artificial grass as no maintenance, and that's a big lie. So whoever you guys see that says no maintenance turf for 15 years, good luck with that. I can tell you, I've been doing it for 15 years, and that is a big lie. Simple as that.
The other part that I was trying to mention was we do live in Florida. It rains a lot here. And because of the rain and because of our soils and because of everything, there tends to be moments where we end up getting little dips in the turf because the base settles a certain way, it comes down, it moves around a little bit. This is not like concrete, because even concrete, driving down the streets, you see like the asphalt too. It gets potholes just from the rain that we have in Florida.
Especially on new pools, they raise the ground a lot when they do a new pool.
And then it settles.
And then it settles like 4 or 5 months later. Some clients call like, hey, we have like a little dip here or whatever. It's 100% normal. It happens a lot. Because no matter how much we compact those 3 inches, 4 inches of base that we put, there is like 4 feet of base that somebody came before us and compacted all around the pool that we don't have any control of that. So
this one is meant to be funny, but our team secretly loves measuring around pet poop zones.
We gotta call ourselves, guys. See.
I'm sure that they encounter this
all the time.
Let's measure this. Oh my gosh, I got poop on my feet.
All the time. We get that all the time.
Funny.
Yeah.
Well,
it's really not funny.
Probably not
it's
true,
funny here, but when we're there, it's not funny. It's
sure.
Not at all.
Anyhow, so I guess key takeaways from this: turf is not necessarily a cheap option, but it is something that is worth doing if you have the right reasons for it as well. it's not just the price. You know, there is labor, there's quality, there's experience that comes in when you're looking for your company, whoever it is that you want to try to hire to do this for you. Just make sure that you're doing a little bit more of your research. You know, look at those reviews, look at how long that company's been in business, look at, you know, how reliable they are overall, because that is something that, you know, if you don't go with us, it's fine. We're not, you know, but we do want to make sure that you are doing your research and you get somebody that's going to do a good job for your yard.
What I used to do literally when I was doing more sales, because I knew few companies that I could see the quality of the work, and I always used to be like, if you're not going to do it with us, please check out this and this company, like, because I knew these companies will also do a good job, and because I know there is a lot of other companies that don't do a good job. So when I was a sales guy, I used to be like, if you don't want to do it with us, check these people out. You know, that's my recommendation. Just, you know, so you can have a good eye on them. So.
Well, I think we talked about everything. We covered a little bit of everything. We talked about price, so I think we're good for today.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it was informative, educative.
It is. Yes.
Right. Yeah. So stay tuned for
episode 4.
Episode 4.
Yeah.
I don't know what our topic's going to be. But
we'll
I guess
see.
we're good to go.
We can probably bring somebody.